I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts. Welcome to my craft room. I have another mini album tutorial here for you. This one features the Heartfelt Creations Wildwood Cottage paper collection and also their 7x9 3D flip album. So this is a really fun tutorial to take. If you were a beginner and just stumbling upon my YouTube channel, all my albums, any mini album, is geared towards beginners. So don't be intimidated by what you see on the cover. This is a step-by-step tutorial, and we will be making this together. So let's take a look at what's inside and what we'll start to make today.
So let's take a look at what we'll be making today. This is a 7" by 9", and this is the Heartfelt Creations 3D flip album. And all we're going to do is add paper and our embellishments, our fold outs, pockets, so it's all ready to go. And I think this came out so darn cute. And all my flowers were treated with the glossy accents after I put the Wink of Stella on it. Little 3D door and everything. On the spine, I wanted to save a little money, so I didn't buy a Baroque frame or a Tim Holtz ornate plate. And we just laid and used what we had. And I think that came out really cute. Okay, let's get into our album. We have a fold out here, and some of the pockets that we make throughout are pockets that will hold more than 3. As you can see, I can stack them in here, at least get 7, 8 picture mats in here easily. So just get those in there. Over here, it's the same thing. A generous pocket with a lot of room in it. And okay, this is a very large fold out. We do have a pocket up here. And here, what we have is the waterfall. And I think you can see that. Easy placement of photos. And here I left alone so you can do another large photo. Over here we can undo it, and we did do the back side of the house, and it's another waterfall. And you can even put a photo here if you wanted. Here we have another generous size pocket, which is wider, so you can get well more than what I've got in there. And I got 4 in here, and it slides in really easy, as you can see. Put those back in. Alrighty, here what we have is a double pocket. And I did create like folders, and you can put cardstock, your decorative cardstock, in here. So you can look at pictures this way or this way. Over here we have a fold out. And we have another fold out. And there is a pocket over here. And then a large pocket back here. Okay, this has got to be probably my favorite page. And what we created was, with the cottage, is a pocket to slide photos back in and out of there. And then we have a nice generous size side pocket. Slide things in and out. And we come to the last 2 pages, and we have another generous pocket here. We can get several picture mats in and out. think that's so cute with the house. And this just pops right on up, and we have another pocket. So that is what we will be making today. This tutorial, we're going to need one Wildwood Cottage paper collection, and it is absolutely gorgeous. The colors are just amazing in this. Okay. I am using the Craft Colored already made 3D flip fold album. And for those of you that have not seen these before, this is a 7-inch wide by 9 inches tall. And all it is it's ready to go for us to add our pockets, our fold outs, so forth. So that is what I'm using, and I'm using Craft. I'm also using the Coordinations Crafty cardstock. It's a 65 pound, and it's 8.5 by 11 in size. I am using, bringing these dies in for this, and this is the new Heartfelt Creations Delicate Borders Basics die set, and you get a ton in there. And then we have the Classic Border Basics set. If you get this one, I recommend getting this one too. But I used this in my last tutorial, and I'm going to use this for several more. It's just gorgeous, these brackets, and so many things you can do with it. Okay, then I'm also using the Floral Basics, Border Basics, and you get all those brackets. For those of you that don't have a die cutting machine and will need to use a border punch, you can use what you have on hand, like the Martha Stewart 1/2 inch or deep edge. But I wanted to introduce a new punch I got in, I've been trying, and I really like it. So these are by EK Tools, and this one's called Scroll Pattern. So this is more like a deep edge. It's almost this, it's probably about the same as the Martha Stewart deep edge. And this is really pretty. And one thing about these is that you can, to store them, you can clip them, move the little button, it'll stay closed, and when you stack them, you know what it is. So that's kind of a nice addition to this style of a punch. There is also this one, and this is called Flower Burst, and this has a beautiful trim. And then I'm also going to show you some new Martha Stewart punches I got in. So you have a little bit of a variety. For like comparable to the Martha Stewart 1/2 inch punch, there are these. Now this one is Scrolls and Hearts, and it is so cute. Look at that. And then this one is the Abstract Flower, looks like, if I got it right. But it's just a really delicate looking trim. And they work the same as the Martha Stewart's punches, where you slide them in, you can line it back up. See? Okay, so if you're gung-ho on staying with the same brand that you usually do, like Martha Stewart, now this is a new one that came in. Now this is the combo pack. This one's called Bubble Bath, and it is really cute. This is a deep edge punch, and this one's called Flower Bed. And I think that this is just gorgeous. It gives that delicate detail. Now, other ones that I brought in that were very pretty is we got doily lace here. I think I had this a long time ago in my store. This one is called Arbor Loop, and it's very pretty. And then I like this one. It's called Olive Branch. And these are all the smaller trim punches. So there are some options. Now, with the Wildwood Cottage, there are several dies and stamps you can buy for it, but these are the ones that I have chose. This is the Heartfelt Creations Wildwood Cottage, HCD1 7127. And you get the house cutout, the trim, the doors, windows. And then this is the matching stamp. It's the Wildwood Cottage. And that's an HCPC 3771. And you can see what the stamp images are. Another part of this collection that I am using is the Wildwood Florals die and the Wildwood Florals stamp set that matches. And you get a lot in there. You get leaves, you get your little flower buds, your flowers, and here's a flower that I made using that. And here are some different, there's a whole bunch of these, so here are just some different ones. I got more over there. That's part of this collection that I've pre-made. Now, for my flowers, I am using the Color Box inks. This one is Sunflower, and I made some little strips up, so it's maybe easier if you can see the different shades. You can get the more potent on down to lighter with this. Now these two are brand new ink releases by Color Box, and I just love them. Now this one is called Sangria, and this reminds me of the old Rangers ink color Current. It's beautiful. Anyway, these are the different colors when I daubed light and dark that you can get out of it. And this one's called Romantic. I think you could see the color. These are some of the colors you can get out of it. Okay, so those are what I'm using for my flowers. For my leaves, I am just going to use two colors this time. I'm using the Memento Olive Grove for stamping the image and for my darker green. And here's this. And then Color Box Chalk ink. This is Olive Pastel. Now I brought something in for those of you without a die cutter who want to be able to make your own flowers, but you don't have a die cutter and you don't like to fussy cut flower petals out. So this is what I did, and I'm going to demonstrate so that you guys, if you want to pick these up, you'll know how to do it. So this one is a larger flower punch, and it's 2 1/8. I've got some examples here that because we're going into ink and I'm going to show you. So those of you that are die cutters that can just fast forward through this part. And I also got leaves here. So you can fast forward to the next part. This is for those that are interested in making their own flowers. Now this one is a Martha Stewart one. And it is different. And I'll tell you, when you punch it, this shape does not completely come out. What the idea is to be able to punch a page and dimensionalize. So what I did, so that I actually get the best of two worlds here, I could actually punch this on like a cardstock, on a card, or even on a pocket, and then color around, and I would have a pop-up flower. But in this case, I'm going to show you how you can still use this, and all you do is just snip it through here to release the flower. So you got your flower petal. So, and I'm going to show you how you can do some layering and how you can actually make smaller flowers out of this one punch. So I've already started with some examples here, and we'll do it together. Then there are the smaller ones, and for instance, it's this size, and by the time I'm done shaping this, I can get a smaller size out of that. And then there's this one for the smaller, right down here. And then this is slightly bigger, and these will go right along with these here. And that's the true size of the punch, and then once you start shaping. And then what I did was I found and this is by Tim Holtz. This is Fiskars. This is Martha Stewart brand. And what did I get here? I can't remember. McGill. Okay. And this is a Tim Holtz one by Sizzix. And this is the leaf. And this also gives you the options of, when storing, locking it down, which is nice. Okay, so and that is the leaf size. And then I did some over here. So I'm going to do a really quick demo on this for you. So I'm going to move some of this out and we'll work on them little by little so that you can decide if this is something you'd like, because it's completely easy, and I think you'll really like the flowers that you can create out of this. Let's start off with the leaf. It's very easy. All you have to do is slide it in, punch, and there's your leaf. So for me, Olive Grove is my darkest color, and all I'm going to do is go around the edges with the dark. And then what I'm going to do is just put a little bit in the middle, and I hope you can see that okay. Very quick and easy. Now I'm into the Color Box Chalk ink, and this is Olive Pastel. And I'm just going to color it. And if you want a little more darker in there, you can do that. And then I'm going to take my Winkostella and give it that shimmery look. Now to top these off, I am applying the glossy accents to this. And what it ends up doing is giving it that gloss on top of that shimmer. I think you can see that. And it stiffens it up for longer lasting petals. So that is that one. And on this project, I'm using a lot of die cut vines and stuff. What you can do is a lot of these. A lot of cutting and doing your leaves, and then you can just assort them, put them assortedly on your front of your project. It's very pretty. And spread them out. Let's move on to this one. Now this is very easy to punch. I'm just going to flip this upside down so you can kind of see. I just, line it up so I got some paper in there, and it punches. So let's start off by how we're going to color these, and you can do it all sorts of different ways. And also what you'll need in order to do your own flowers. First of all, I do have my pearls ready. Got my glue. The most important is the shaping kit. You'll want a flower shaping kit. I'm using the Deluxe Flower Shaping Kit because I get more tools in it and more things. So these are all the different nibs you get. So in here you're going to get your large molding mat. You have a piercing mat. You'll want a tool, and in this case I think I'm going to grab this size, and these are magnetic once you put them in, so they're not going to come out. And then I think I will go with a smaller end tool here. Okay, I'm going to flip this over. Alright, so I'm going to start by coloring, and I'm going to do one, and then we're going to assemble these and then put our pearls inside. Now if you notice, this only has 4 petals, and this actually has 5. So I'm going to show you how to achieve to get a smaller flower to get inside with just that one punch. First thing to get this color flower is I'm just going to go in here with some yellow, and I'm going to get a scratch piece of paper. It might be easier here, laying it down. I'll just smear some in there. And then I'm going to take Sangria, the darker color here, and I'm going to go around the edges dark, all the way around. Now to get in between, if you'd like to get in between, you can just bend back one of your petals and keep going. And don't worry about things that happen like that. It's not a big deal. So I'm just going to quickly do this. Okay. Next, I'm going to grab another color here, get that ready to go, and I'm just going to lightly just daub on some pink in there. Okay, now this is the Romantic, and I'm just going to brush some here and there. Okay. And if you want a more bold color, you can go back on over and give it more color. But never judge how your flower is going to come out like just from what you've done here. Okay? You're not going to know until it's done, because your flower will take on a whole new life once it's shaped and you start assembling these. So this is what I've got here. Now, sometimes, depending on how thick your cardstock is, sometimes it's easier just to spritz a little with water. You don't have to, but sometimes it depends. If you're using like 110-pound cardstock, you most likely will want to just do a light spritz. So on this, I'm going to show you a basic way, and I'm just pressing down and bringing it in. Like so. And I'm going to go around and do this for the whole thing. You can also roll it around in circles and bring it in. And there's so many different ways that you can shape these flowers. Just bring in your sides there. Okay. Then flip it over. You can use your smaller one for the inside. You can pat it down or roll it around in a circle. And your petals will start flipping up. Now, if you're completely wet and drenched, you're going to want to wait for it just to dry a little bit before you start moving around. Okay, so in order to get a smaller flower to fit inside with just using this punch, what I ended up doing was cutting a slit into the middle. Then what I can do is add a little bit of glue and swing that around like so. See? If you need to redo a little more reshaping, you can. So that's how I did that. Okay, let's go ahead and just add a little bit of glue. Now when I place this, I'm going to offset this one just a little bit, like so. And you can use your tool to push it down more. And then I'm going to grab this one, the 4-petal one, and I'm just going to place that in there. Use my tool to push it down. Okay. Now I'm going to add some frills to the inside there. And I'm just going to add some of my glue. And then I can pour it back in what I don't need. Now this is going to take a moment to dry, the frills of course. My next step, what I'm going to do is start going around and putting the Wink of Stella all over to give it that shimmery look. Now you may not be able to tell in the video, it just depends, but I'll show you what I've got here and maybe you'll be able to see the shimmer. And then I'm going to show you after with what it looks like with the glossy accents on there. So I don't know if you can see that real well, but maybe, maybe not. So now what I'm going to do is apply the glossy accents. I've got my glossy accents on this, and I'm hoping you can see this. I did use my finger to smear it around. Usually I like to, because it's a medium and it's very sticky, it's like a glue almost, and then it dries where it's not sticky. It leaves that gloss and it really brings out some color. But this is, and I'm hoping you can see that. Can't tell. I did some new things in my craft room and I had to change around the lighting just a hair. So anyway, so I'm going to let that dry. Let's talk about this one. Now this one I've glued 2 pieces already together, and I've done the same thing I did there, which is going dark here, some yellow, and then some of the romantic. Okay, and all I did to get the curling is when I placed it down, and I didn't use any spritzing, I just rolled it and they roll right in. Like so. Then once it's like this, just kind of spread those out. You can use your smaller tip and just roll it around in a circle, and they pop right up. Now, to get one less so it's kind of smaller, what you can do is the same thing. Is clip it to the center, add some glue, and maneuver it on over on top of that other petal. If you need to go over to the next one, you can do that. So I'm going to add some glue here, and I'm going to push down. And now you've got a really pretty flower. Alright, so prills, I'm just going to put some glue down in there. And if you want more prills, you can put more in there. But there is my flower, and that is without any Wink of Stella on there yet. And I'll go ahead and apply my Wink of Stella in glossy accents, and I'll show you what that looks like. And I'm going to set this off the side to let that dry. Now it's the same idea with these other flowers. Okay, bling. I am using what I usually use. It's the bling on the roll. It's a single row, and this will dress up our album. Okay, so this is the Memento Rich Cocoa. And here's the color thing for you. I will be using this to ink around pages and the paper for some of my handmade flowers. I am going to be using some flower stamens. And in my store I have one that has a 3-pack of all 3 different looks. The Petaloo DIY, they're called the Paintable Butterflies. I am going to be using this. And I have the 3/8 Ivory Fancy flatback pearls. I'm going to be using my score tape, and this is the 1/4 inch. Adhesives, I am using the Art Glitter Dries Clear adhesive, and this is good for metal, paper, plastic, anything. So pretty much anything, but it's for what we're using it for anyway. Okay, we also need a pack of magnets, and my store sells them in 10 packs, and they are very strong, as you can see. And I am going to be using the diamond stickles on my flowers, and you can use this on packaged flowers too. Now I'm also going to be using on some of my flowers the Wink of Stella, which is just a pen, and it's like a shimmer. Puts a shimmer on your paper. And I'm also going to be using some glossy accents on my leaves and flowers. And that helps stiffen them up as well as give it a nice bright shine and gloss to it. Lace, I'm going to be using this 2-inch wide, and I'll show you what it looks like. Use whatever lace you have on hand, but this one's just gorgeous. And it's a white. And let's see here. I've got the 3/4 inch lace right here. And then I've got the 1/2 inch, and this is the Rochelle. It's a thinner lace. It's small, and I do like using thinner lace on certain areas of my albums. And that's just a real pretty lace. For the side closure, I am going to use the Dritz Extra Large Hook and Eyes, and this is the nickel plated brass. 3 come per package, and you only need 1 set, so you'll have extras. Also, I am going to use the Zotz singles, and they're a clear adhesive strong 3D dot. And what I like about these are that singles, meaning that they are individually done. And also with these, all you have to do is pull back one side, stick it to something, and then peel this off. And that way your hands stay out of it. Items that you're going to want are a scoring board, and you'll want one that is the 12-inch size. I recommend that. It's much easier, and of course you'll want your scoring tool. You'll want a paper cutter, a ruler, your scissors, and a pencil for sure. So before you get started, it might be a time saver if you're die cutting and stuff, if you go ahead and prepare some leaves. I just did one full sheet and then inked it and got these ready to go. And then, whoops. And then what I did was I just made up a few flowers to get started and some little buds there. And then the rest are right here so that if I need to make more, I will. Okay, we are conserving paper. This is a larger album than what I usually do. So we will be conserving, so in doing this step by step, let's go ahead and turn our page so we're looking at it like this. I try to keep consistent throughout the tutorial on telling you to measure over this way. It keeps it straight, there's no confusion, and then by the time we're in the middle of the tutorial, it's easier. So I'm looking at my paper this way. Alright, we are going to measure over 2 1/4 inches and cut. Now what I'm trying to do is get the bulk of this on to be in the center over here. Okay, this goes in our reserves. Now, looking at your paper like this, we're going to measure over 8 7/8 of an inch and cut. That's just a hair under 9 inches. And I'll show you what mine looks like here. This we're going to put in reserves. So remember, on a lot of this stuff, what seems very minor and like you can't use it, we may be using that. So anyway, that would make a great trim. Alright, so now let's just measure over 6 inches and cut. So this is what you should have. We're going to set this aside for our back cover. So I'm just going to set that off somewhere so I don't actually cut it. Now one thing is it's going to look like we're short. Now I purposely had us cut it short so we had a border around here, and we're not going to worry about over here because we have something to place there. But before we do anything, let's get out our rich cocoa or whichever color you're using, and let's go ahead and ink around these edges. And I'm going to do this all the way around. So I'm going to lay mine down just so you can see better the inking around the edges of what that did for me. Okay, we can go ahead and turn this over. Let's get into our score tape. We are going to mount this. And what I like to do is, because we are going to have a side closure, is the first thing I like to do is just go around the edges like a picture frame there. And you'll want to make sure that your score tape does not go over the edge of your paper. Now if you need to do this in strips, run one, chop it off and run like that, go on ahead. If you're new to using score tape, at least for me, when I started using it, it felt really strange to use it. And there wasn't a whole lot of control. And the biggest tip I can give you about score tape and its effectiveness is to try and keep your fingers out of the adhesive. If right now you are wearing lotion on your hands, I would wash your hands with soap and water. Every time your fingers, the oils, touch the back side of the score tape, it lessens the potency of the adhesive. So it's almost impossible for me to keep my hands out of it, but the less I do, the better. So now I'm just going to go ahead and run an extra piece down the sides here, like so. And then I'm going to start one right down the middle, because this is our cover and we do have some things that are going to go on it. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that this does not buckle up. I'm just going to space these out a little. Okay, before I remove the score tape, I'm going to show you once again how this is going to do once I remove the score tape. And sometimes it's easier just to move your thing around like so. But the blue is going to be over this way. And we're going to place it leaving a border of our craft album evenly around there, as you can see. And for spacing purposes, you really don't have to be persnickety on this. It is about 1/8 of an inch in my paper from the edge there, and about 1/8 here and here. So, okay, I'm going to remove the score tape and we're going to place it. And then what we're going to do is go ahead with the back sheet. After we're done with this, we'll get our score tape laid on this side so we can get that going. Now I use score tape on our base pages, what lays against this and the inside and the outside. And I'm really funny about that. I don't like using regular or the glue. I like using score tape because it's flat, and that's why I use the score tape for certain things, and for other things I use the glue to save on score tape. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this, and I'm going to take a look, trying to keep this even as I can, and I think that is. And then I'm just going to make sure I press down really good, especially where it has the fabric, if you're using this flip fold album. Okay, I'm going to set this off to the side for a moment. Let's grab our back piece. And we are going to line score tape around the edges like we did before. And we're also going to run an extra one down the sides like we did. And I'll do one down the middle and one here and here. And I'll show you what mine looks like here in a moment. Okay, so I have mine on the back side here. If you've had experience or anything with your paper buckling or anything like that, you may want to add more, but I don't get that, so I feel confident I'm okay on the back side doing that. I am going to ink around the edges like I did on the front one, and then I'm going to place this, and we'll place it together. Now, inking around the edges is a personal preference of my own, so if you don't like it, then don't do it. So the first thing we want to do is to look at the front, and then we're just going to flip it over. You don't know how many times that I've actually got this thing flipped around and everything, but being we're the same here, there is no other print than this. If we were upside down, it wouldn't matter, but it's always good to remember to do that. So I'm just going to place it like this all the way to the edge, leaving about 1/8. I'm going to remove my score tape, and I'm going to press it all the way down. So let's do that. Okay, set this aside. Let's get our piece for here, and we're also going to get our piece for here. Alright, in our paper pack we will find this sheet. On the back it's this. Very pretty. Okay, so let's remove our strip up here. Once that is done, let's go ahead and divide these individual trim pieces. And I'll show you what mine looks like when I'm done. Okay, so this is what I've got. I've got my strips all here. The first one that we're going to work with is this one. So let's set that off to the side. Let's just put all this in our reserves. Now, you can measure over to 8 7/8 of an inch and cut it, but if you were not exact, one way to do this is just lay this right next to what you have already. Use your pencil and mark it where you need to cut it. So let's go ahead and trim that to fit. Let's go ahead and ink around the edges lightly of this piece all the way around. Okay, now what I'm going to do is lay score tape. And when I lay my score tape, I'm using the 1/4 inch wide. I'm going to lay it all the way to the top and get it all the way to the edge without going over. If you go over with your score tape, you will definitely want to trim off anything peeking out. And I'm going to go on over here too. So let's get this all ready to go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to double check, make sure that score tape is not peeking out. And I'm going to remove that score tape and I'm going to lay that trim right next to this. Just butt it up right next to it. So all I'm going to do is bring this all the way over to line it up at the top. And bring this down the side. And I'm going to make sure I press that down really good. So it's just not going to go anywhere. And that's what you should look like. So we are on to the back. Go ahead and grab this one, but we're going to flip it over. And we are going to do the same thing. We're going to measure this to fit, or if you were accurate, you can measure over 8 7/8 of an inch and cut it. And then we're going to ink around the edges and we're going to lay that. So let's do that. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into our lace. And let's cut a piece to fit top to bottom. If it overhangs. Okay. I am going to get into my glue here and start gluing this down. I may have to refill my bottle here. So you want to make sure that your lace is down pretty good because we do have some layering on top of it. Alright, let's go ahead and set this off to the side. Now, we're going to do a couple things here. In your Wildwood Cottage die cuts, we're going to grab this. And what I did was I doubled up 2 pieces of craft cardstock. We definitely want to layer on this because it's on the cover. We want to make sure that it's durable. So just die cut 2 pieces off your card with your craft cardstock, and we can set that off to the side. Then we're going to get into our paper pack right here. And what we're going to do is first trim this off. Now let's just go ahead and divide these. Okay, what you're going to want to do is take this one and this one and stick them in your reserves. We want this one, and what we're going to do with this is just flip it over. Now, if your die cutter allows for it, what you can do is just double them up on top of each other here. And you'll want to place this one on top. And when you place this, you will place it to the far right side of this and down so that you will get some of the birds and some of this pretty flowers in there. And then you can run it through the die cutter. If you have to do them separate, then go ahead. So let's get those ready. Okay, we can go ahead and set these off to the side. Put these in reserves for now so we don't have a whole bunch of stuff sitting in front of us. Alright, so what you can do right now is you can go ahead and apply glue to this and mount this right on top of it. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Make sure that's all pressed down good. Okay, I am going to quickly Just ink around the edges, just a hair up through here. And it really doesn't matter. I think I'm just more getting used to inking around a lot of this stuff. So, okay, so you got that. So I thought about this a little bit, and I think we're going to play it safe so that we don't mess up our thing. You can stamp directly on this and your windows. However, I'm going to drag my scrap piece out first, and I'm actually going to stamp on this, and then I'll die cut it out rather than accidentally stamping, misstamping on this and not getting it right. So what I'm going to do here is ink up, and I'm using a square door, and I'm gonna go heavy on the ink here. I think I got that. So all I'm going to do now, and I did miss right in here. All I'm gonna do now is stamp this right on my paper up here, and so my door's gonna have some flour on it. I'm gonna make sure I get that good. There we go. And then what I can do is I am using this one, and I'm going to ink that up. I think I got that pretty good, and I'll just stamp that image there. I'm going to wash those, and then I'm going to grab this one, and I'll stamp it right here. Like so. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my dies that fit over those. And this is how I'm playing it safe rather than stamping on there and making an error. But get my die plates out. So all I'm going to do here is place my door over the stamped image, and it'll line up, and with my windows as well. And I'm going to run this through the die cutter. Now one thing really quick, if you don't have a die cutting machine, and I forgot to say this, and so you're kind of at a loss, well, I can't do this tutorial, you can. I'll help you make a shape of a house. It's not going to be as fancy, but it's going to be the same size. So cut a 3 3/4 of an inch by 5 1/4 inch piece of cardstock. And of course you're going to layer yours up, so you'll cut 2 in craft. Then what you're going to do is have this square. And you will make a mark with your pencil at the midpoint, which is 1 7/8 of an inch. And then you'll be able to fold in your sides like so to get a even-sided peak. Okay, so I got my pieces. I'm just going to set those aside for right now. This is where what you're going to want to do is just kind of double these up. If your die cutter will let you, I recommend that you do, so that you are going to cut the same. Now when you do your door, you're going to bring it up slightly from the bottom, like so. On this die here, which is the window, I'm going to place that one in the center. So we're a little more over with the door this way, and I am going to center that. And then with this window, I am going to place that. I think I die cut my window wrong, but that's okay. I am going to just place that right like so next to it. So, and I'm going to run that through the die cutter. And I'm going to bring that up a little more there. So let's do that. Okay, we can just pop those right on out. Now what we can do is glue our 2 pieces together. So let's do that. So when you remove your pieces from behind here, you will have these. So we're going to go ahead and glue these together. The cardstock back behind our stamped image on all of these. So let's go ahead and do that. Now before I go any farther, I am going to ink around the edges of the home. This little cottage. Isn't that cute? All the way around, and I'm also going to do around the doors and the windows. So let's do that. Okay, so you have this other piece here. Flip it over. Grab a piece of scrap cardstock. Just put it right back behind there. You'll have this die. It's the peak. And I am just going to maneuver this so that I can get some color up at the top. And I'm going to run that through my die cutter, and then I am going to glue my pieces together and ink around the edges. Once you have this done, we're just going to go ahead and glue this right on down, and we can match up the little swirlies on the side. So let's do that. Okay, so for this part, all I'm going to do is just curl up one end here. You can use your scoreboard, but it's such a small little thing. I'm just doing that, and I'm going to add a little glue to that, and I'm going to stick that right here on the side, and I can pop that out more if I wish. Okay, now for these, I am going to cut those babies right down the middle, and I'm going to use them for shutters, I think. I thought that that would look kind of cute. And I'm just going to, again, kind of bend it a little. You want to bend it before you put the glue. And stick them off here to the side. Do the same thing over here. Same thing, cut that right down the center so you still have some cardstock there. Just kind of angle them out. I'm going to do the same thing. And the reason why I did it like this was because I wanted to dimensionalize the house. So, alright, so I've got that there. Next, what we need are our Zots. And what I like best about these Zots singles is that I don't have to get my hands in this, and they very sticky. So I'm going to just start putting them in key places, and I do use quite a few because this is on our cover, and that's why I said when we place the house that we want to place it up a little bit. It's so we can get under there. And I'll show you what mine looks like when I'm done here. Alright, so I have to tell you, if you're using these, it is not forgiving. It's stuck. And I put a bunch on mine. I was very generous because this is on our cover, and be very careful when you're laying this, because once it's down, it's down. When I was placing these, I actually flipped it over and it got stuck on my table. I could barely get it up. So, or off my fingers. Once it's on, it's pretty much on. So I'm going to be very careful here. I'm going to start at the bottom and just lay that right on top. Get that on there. So now's the time to check to make sure your shutters and everything are on good. I'm going to put a little more glue on that one. Make sure your door's on there good. And I can now curl these out a little more once the glue is set. Alright, so this is what you should have. Isn't that cute? Okay, we have one more thing to go. And in your reserves, you should find a thin sheet like this. Looks like that on the back. And all I'm going to do is grab that stamp that says Home Sweet Home. And I'm going to add some ink. Stamp it, and now I'm just going to die cut it. So I think what I'm going to do in order to keep this straight, and you'll want to bring it all the way to the top like I did, is right underneath that, let's go ahead and put this on our paper cutter and cut straight across, and then we'll put that piece in our reserves. When you go to die cut this, you will want to back it with the cardstock like before. And then we'll go ahead and run that right on through. Okay, let's glue our two pieces together. Okay, and I went ahead and I inked around my edges. This is actually going to hang right off to the side like that. Or if you don't like it there, you can always stick it here. I am going to put mine off to the side a bit. Making sure I get half of that heart on the paper at least, or both of them, whichever, and I'm going to allow that to dry. Okay, let's flip this over, and I am using score tape. If you find that when this goes over some of your fabric you need to add a little glue underneath there, do so, but first let's do the score tape. And I think we'll be fine without adding any glue, but you never know. Alright, so before I remove the score tape, I'm going to show you exactly where I'm going to place this. I'm going to place this right there so that there is still some room down here, and I'll give you a measurement here in a moment. You want to be able to see your butterflies and some of the background flowers. Oh, I'm about 1.5 inches. The bottom of this is 1.5 inches from the bottom of the album. So let's go ahead and place that, and we are centered from side to side. I'm removing my score tape, but right here I think I am going to make sure that doesn't get knocked off, I am going to grab one of these because I do have enough room to get one there underneath. One thing about these is once you place it, you can squeeze it. It's going to stick, but you can squeeze it so that, for instance, I might have a little bit hanging over the side. You can push and roll it in, just like so. Alright, get my hand out of the score tape. Alright, about 1.5 inches, I said, from the bottom. Yeah, right there. Approximately, anyway. And just press it on down. And then that's going to press down. Check your windows and doors. At this point, you should be able to tug and they're not going to go anywhere on you. I love these colors. They're just beautiful. I haven't forgotten about this part. I wanted to work on this. I kind of switched gears on us. Okay, if you have any scraps or leftovers, let's put that in our reserves. Let's start, actually, this is a good time. Let's get our paper for this. In your paper pack, you will have another one of these. Let's trim off the top. Okay, for this, I'm just going to turn it over here. Just look at it like this. Let's just measure over 3 inches and cut. Put the larger piece in your reserves. Now, let's measure over 8 7/8 of an inch and cut. We're going to ink around our edges, and then we're going to apply score tape on this side. And I'll show you how I'm doing that. Because it's going on a fabric, I want to make sure that this stays down. I went around the edges, and then there is another layer on right inside there going around, and 3 down the middle. And now all I'm going to do is make sure I'm even with these. Center it, and I'll have some up here showing, and a border on each side. Make sure it's the same, and I'll place that. Once it's down, just make sure you get those edges down really good so there's no chance of this snagging and tearing. Okay, I want to decorate the cover, so let's go there. Okay, so I have 5 of these all ready to go here. let's start placing them. I'm going to put some glue on the back here. The first one that I'm going to place is right up here. I'm going to add glue to this one, and I'm going to place this one right here. The next one I am going to place is right here. The next one I'm going to place is right here. And the next one I'm going to place right here. Now cut a piece of bling and let's glue that right here on the edge, top and bottom, just like that. And you're going to need about 4 flat back pearls. And I'm going to glue one here. I'm going to glue one right here, and glue one right here, and right in here. Get one in there. So let's glue all that down and let our glue dry. I grabbed a white butterfly from the butterfly pack, and I'm just going to place that right here. I'm going to grab one of these, and I'm going to place that right here. Now you can start moving around, so if you're doing your own flowers with the punches, you can go ahead and just start placing them like I am. This one's going to go right here. I have this one with the flower stamens, and I'm going to stick that one right here. I've got one of these, and I'm going to stick that right here. Smaller one here. Got another small one. I'm going to put one right there. I've got another small one, and I'm going to stick that right there. There. I've got another medium size here, and that's going to go right here. And one right there. Let's get into Ardred's closure. The only one I want right now is this one. And you'll want a binder clip or a clamp for this. And I am just going to add glue. And I'm going to center this and leaving enough room there for me to get the other part through, and then I'm just going to clamp it, and I'm going to let that sit for about 5-10 minutes. So if you have this punch with the Tim Holtz, you can actually start sliding. If you'll be wanting to place yours, of course, but you can also, if you're wanting that punch or whatever, you can also add extra, like by going right underneath there on some of these and making them stick out like so. Let's go ahead and stick this off to the side. In your paper pack you will find this sheet. On the back it looks like that. Let's go ahead and trim this off, and then we're going to trim these sentiments off the side. Go ahead and stick the big piece in our reserve pile. I went and clipped this one out, Treasured Days, and I'm going to stick this back in my reserve. Go ahead and ink around your edges there, and I did mount it to some craft cardstock. I don't have a border. All it is to thicken it up. And all I'm going to do now is give it just a little bit of a bend here so it will pop up a bit. And I'm going to glue that right like that. Go ahead and grab 2 of your flat back pearls. And I'm just going to add some glue right on top of this. And this is going to take about 10 minutes to dry. There, and I'm going to let that dry. Let's work on the spine. Now I decided with this one, instead of using an ornate plate or a Baroque frame, I'm just going to use the flowers, my leaves, and what the paper provided me. So we have some sentiments, like we have Treasured Days that we put on the cover. And in our reserves we should have this one. And you'll want to go ahead and ink around those edges. And then what you'll want to do is glue this to a piece of craft cardstock so you have a little bit of a cardstock frame around it. Okay? So let's all do that. I'm going to glue mine together. Those of you that have the dies, what I did was, if you notice, all I did was die cut this and I inked around the edges. Okay? And then I have one of these. And I'm just going to layer it there. Just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and glue this right over the top. I've got some flowers here. I'm going to put one here, here, and here. And I think that that is absolutely lovely for the spine. Now, those of you that don't have leaves like this, that are using the Tim Holtz punch leaves, you can do something similar. You can go ahead and put a couple leaves up this way. Come on, work with me here. A couple leaves up this way, peeking out, and lay a flower. And you can also put a couple down here and lay a flower down that way. And that will be really lovely too. You'll want to put your 2 leaves off to the side there and center it. So let's go ahead and finish up this by doing that. I'm going to glue mine down. So there is mine. Let's move on to page 1. Page 1, and I am finally out of my pajamas, and sometimes it's more comfortable to do these tutorials in the morning by staying in your pajamas. Alright, in our paper pack you will find this sheet. It's absolutely gorgeous. On the back it's this. First we're going to trim off this top little piece. And then we're going to measure over 6 inches and cut that right down the middle. So this is what you should have. Alrighty. For this, let's go ahead and just double these up. So I have the birds on the bottom and this just as it was. Let's measure over 8 inches and cut. We're going to have a nice crafty colored border around when we place these around our page. And we will be inking around these, but for now we're going to work with page 1, and we're going to set page 2 aside. Just stick that off to the side, and let's just stick these in reserve so we don't have a whole bunch of stuff in front of us. Let's grab a piece of 8.5 by 11 craft cardstock, and we're 11 inches across. Let's measure over 5.5 inches and cut that right in half. Set this one off to the side for page 2. We're going to tackle one page at a time here. Okay, so I'm going to be die cutting my trim across, and I am using the Delicate Border Basics, and I'm grabbing these two brackets. They're one of my favorites. So it's this one and this one. And I am going to place these, and I'm going to center them side to side so it's the same amount of spacing here and here. But most importantly, you want to make sure that the spacing between here and here, here and here are the same, so it's all lined up. And I'm going to run that through the die cutter. Now those of you that are not using this, that are using punches, what you're going to do is just punch along the long side here. So let's go ahead and do that. So die cutters, this is what we're going to have, and right up here is where we need to cut in on the sides to release this top part. I like to keep mine even, so I'll be putting this on my paper cutter and cutting down to that point, and then I can cut back up this way to make sure that both sides are even. If you use the punch, you will not be cutting in from the sides. So die cutters, this is what yours should look like after removing the top. Okay, what we're going to do is flip this over to the back side. Okay, and you'll want to grab your pencil for this. We're going to actually make a pocket that gives us more room to slide things in and out. So for me, side to side, centering this side to side, this is where I'm at. So what I'm going to do here is take my pencil, and just on the edge here, to the right of the edge, I'm going to make a pencil mark. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now notice that I'm not putting the pencil mark right on the edge. It's just slightly over to the side. Okay, so once you do that, let's grab our scoreboard. And this is so that everybody can be even. Sometimes when we're die cutting, our plates might shift a little if we aren't using a removable tape. We might get a little bit more over to the side than the other. So that way when you do place this, you can at least get even. Okay, so I can see where my pencil marks are here. I'm going to grab my scoring tool, and I'm going to line up with the grooves in my scoring board where that line is. And I'm just going to kind of follow it down a little, and I'm going to score. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now over here I need to shift it over just a little bit, so I'm going to follow that score line down, and then I can get a good score. Now from the line here, what you're going to do is measure over 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to score again. From this line I'm going to measure over to the left 1/8 of an inch, making sure your lines are matched up there. And we will score. So I want to make sure I'm all lined up here correctly. Okay, right there. And then we're going to score. Okay, I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to measure up. I'm just going to line the bottom of this up with 6 inches so we can all stay the same on this. Measure over to 5, where the 5.5 mark is, and let's go ahead and score. And then let's go right here, 1/8 of an inch over to the left, and let's score again. All right, let's grab our scissors, and I'm going to bring this up real close here. You will have an inner score and outer score at this point. Let's go to the inner one and snip all the way up to the top score line that runs across here. And then I'm just going to cut over to that point on that score line. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to grab the inner score line, and I think you could see that, and cut up to the top score line, and then I can just kind of cut on over here to that point. And that's what we should have. Let's go ahead and fold on our score lines. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is you have two score lines here. On the bottom score line, let's go ahead and flip that up and crease it really good. Let's grab our paper and we are going to slide that right behind like that. Now we're going to look at it, and we're going to look at those inner score lines there and make sure that it's to the left of the edge of our paper. So what you can do is once you have it all the way down, it's going to look like this. You just pinch and hold it and make sure so that when you do fold the side in, it looks flush. Same over here. Okay, so you know you have it in the right position. You can just bring those right on out for now. Go ahead and flip it over and don't let it move. If it slips around on you, start over. And I'm going to use my hot glue gun for quick tacking here. And I'm just going to press that down like so. Okay? Now, once you have it like that, what you want to do is now fold on the other crease line and then push it up. So you will have a nice flush like so. Okay? So once you see that it's nice looking, it's straight across, you can now pull that side in and flip that over. And I'm going to use my hot glue for quick tacking and tack that down. And you don't want to pull it over real tight because then your side is going to come in too far. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. And then as you notice, we do have extra room to really get in there. So let's find our paper for this. In our reserves, we will find this one with the birds, and I'd like to use that right here. Now us die cutters, we're going to have to maneuver ours a little bit. If you use the punches, you'll have a straight across, and you'll want to keep the birds in. So what I do, because you're going to have to trim some of this up here, is to get a good fit, place it down, and I like to show a little bit of my craft, just a hair at the bottom. And then what you can do is move it over some, make sure it's straight, and you can see where the bottom of that trim is. And then you can make a pencil mark and cut. So now with us who actually have the border dies, we're going to go ahead and get into our other set of dies, which is the classic borders. And in here, we will find the one with the single line. It's not dotted or anything, okay? If you should be able to slide this in here, even if it has to go like this, but mine seems to be going okay. Slide it down until it's all the way down to the bottom. This is a good way to do this. I am going to, right here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little pencil mark through so that I can get to my other side. This is a good way for matching up to see what I need to do. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the die plate, and I know where that pencil mark is, and then I'm going to make sure that this is straight, side to side, it's even, and I can run that through my die cutter, and I'll show you what mine looks like. And if I need to trim a little off here, I can do that. Okay, so I'm going to stick this in my reserves. I've got my piece right here, and I'm going to place it down, and to me that's a good fit. But one thing that you might want to do, because I'm going to do it, and this is completely up to you, I'm going to ink around the edges up here with my rich cocoa, and I'm also going to ink along the sides here. You can go heavy or light, whatever you want. And then what I'm going to do is glue that down. And I'm going to actually use my glue here, so I'll just put it on here and mount this. I've got mine glued down, so this is what yours should look like. Let's go ahead and set this off to the side. Let's grab a piece of cardstock and cut a piece that is 5.5 inches by 6.5 inches. Let's get our scoreboard, and my piece is laying to 6.5 inches across. At 5.5 inches, we are going to score. 5 3/4 of an inch we're going to score. So first score line at 5.5, second one at 5 3/4. And then let's go ahead and fold on our score lines here. And we're going to set this off to the side. In your reserves, you will find this sheet. On the back, it looks like this. Let's go ahead and put this on our paper cutter. And we are going to cut this right down the middle in between the panels. And I'll show you mine. Okay, put this back in reserves. Let's go ahead and divide these two panels. This one goes in our reserves. Actually, you can, put that back in your reserves. Okay, for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to put this on our paper cutter now that we have this out from the rest of the pack. We're going to go ahead and trim off this flowery fairy border. So all that's going to be left is our burgundy border and what's inside. So I'm going to show you what mine looks like. This is what yours should look like now. Okay, our flap should be off to the left. And to make this easy, to make sure I get this on here and centered correctly, all I'm going to do is take and pinch that flap back behind like that. I'm going to go ahead and eyeball this, make sure that this fits. If you need to trim a little more, go ahead. But you should have a little bit of a craft border showing around. And it may be that you have to take off the little mauve stripe around the burgundy. And I think I'm going to do that to give me a better fit. Then I'm going to ink around the edges with my rich cocoa. Okay, I've got mine trimmed down and I've inked around the edges. And if I place this down, I have a nice crafty border. And I'm going to go ahead and apply my glue now and glue this down. So let's do that. Okay, so once you have that, let's go ahead and flip it over. And let's find our paper for here. In our paper pack, we will find this with the 4 6x6 panels. On the back, it is blue. Let's go ahead and trim off the top piece. And then what we're going to do is cut this panel out. So let's do that. Okay, stick the rest in reserves. Let's just flip that right on over. And we are going to grab our pencil. And what I'm going to do is we want to steer clear of that inner score line so it doesn't catch our paper. And we want to leave a border. So all I'm doing is, if you can notice, is I'm bringing the paper down a little bit. I do have a spacing about the same as up here between the inner score line and the edge of my paper. And I'm going to make a mark down here, which will give me some spacing. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing. So now all I'm going to do is put this on my paper cutter. I'm going to cut down and I'm going to cut over, and that should fit nicely in here. We'll want to put these scrap pieces in our reserves. I always like to check before I glue anything down. And the reason why is because sometimes we can make cutting errors. And if we start applying glue and our cut is not right, then we kind of lay it down and then we're trying to pull it back up and fix it. So it's always best to double check ourselves. So mine is a good fit. I've got a border. You have the option if you would like to ink around your edges. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to apply glue and I am going to center that and put that right on down. And I'll show you what mine looks like when I'm done. And mine is complete there. Let's go ahead and attach this fold out. And the easiest way to do that is just bring it right on over here. And we're going to center that. Once we have it straight, you're going to want to pinch and hold that. And I'm going to flip mine over. If you feel you're slipping while you're flipping it, start over and line it back up. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to tack it down. And there you are. This page, for now, we're going to set this off to the side. It's complete for now. We're not going to put this in our book first. We're going to do page 2. We'll mount page 2 first, then we'll mount page 1. And I will explain why I do it like that as soon as we get there. So let's just set this right off to the side. I'm going to get in the Floral Borders Basics, and I'm going to grab this bracket. Now there's two that look like each other. Now if you notice, if I lay where the blades are down, I'm going to curve down like this, and that's what I want. This one goes the other direction, so I'm going to put that back in my case. If you are using a punch, I will get with you just a moment. I try to cater to both die cutters and punchers. So when you lay your plate down, you're going to want to leave spacing here and here, but bring it up to the top and go ahead and run that through the die cutter. Now, for those of you that are using a punch style, what I want you to do is grab your ruler, if I can find mine. Go ahead and measure in about 1 inch and make a pencil mark. Okay? What you're going to do down here is you're going to measure in about 1 inch and make a pencil mark, but you're also going to make sure that you are at least 1.5 inches up from the bottom. So inch over, 1.5 inches, just make a mark. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get this on your paper cutter, and what you can do is use your ruler first and do a faint line like this. Put it on your paper cutter to get a straight cut. Cut it at an angle. Now you can actually get that in your punch and punch across the long side here. So go ahead and do that. So those of you with the deep edge punch are going to look something like this. Those of us who did with this, we're just going to cut into the side to release anything. Alright, those of us that did the die cutting, what you're going to want to do is just maneuver yours on over, and your sides are probably going to flip over off the paper, and maybe they won't, depending on the degree of the angle you put your bracket. So we're going to all do this so it doesn't matter about your degree of what angle you actually had your bracket at. So once I have it like that, and it looks pretty, I have enough on this side and that side, it looks pretty even, I'm just going to flip this over. Okay, and then what I can do is just kind of even it up as best as I can. I'm just going to make a mark with mine here and on the side and here. So that tells me where it is, and also when I put this on my scoring board, I can get a straight line too. So let's grab our scoring board, everyone, and we'll all do this together. It's easier if sometimes the way you lay it, whatever you're comfortable with, you're not going to want to go this way because it's just going to slide around. You're going to mash your thing. So for me, I'm just going to slide it there. Now, what I'm going to try and do is line this up with the score line. And I think I got that pretty close. And I'm going to hold this straight so it doesn't slide. And I'll make my score. I'm going to measure over about 1/8 of an inch to the right of that line, and I'm going to score again. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. We're going to score, and then we're going to score to the left of that 1/8 of an inch. Make sure it doesn't slide around. Now I'm going to flip it around, and sometimes this is the hard part, is trying to line up this one. So I'm going to kind of fill with my tool, and I think I got it close enough. So now I'm just going to score here. And then to the left of that, I'm going to score 1/8 of an inch. Now what I can do is we're going to do the same thing we did before. My inner score line is here, and I'm just going to snip up to the top score line. So we're notching it. Same thing, I'm going to go to the inner score line and clip up to the top one that runs like that. And then I can clip that notch out. So yours should look like this. So let's go ahead and fold on our score lines now. Alrighty. So we're going to do the same technique as we did before, is on the bottom score line, let's go ahead and pinch that. And then loop that back behind. Now we can scoot it over so that we can see that we are fitting, which I do. Make sure it's down. We're going to pinch that. And we can go ahead and glue that down. Now we want to push it down and fold on the next one, and then we can push it up like so. So then you've got your spacing down there. Now we can just pinch this to the back and around, and we can tack that down. And then we're going to cut paper to fit on the front there. And this is what you should have. In your reserves, you will find this. And we're going to have the flowers towards the bottom. And we are a good fit from side to side. Now, for those of you that have yours mounted up like this and have the straight edge going diagonal, what you can do is place yours down, and then you can pull this back until it's straight, crease it, and then you can cut right on the line to get a nice fit. For the rest of us, what we're going to do is we're going to need our pencil, and we're going to slide that right back down behind, all the way down until it hits the bottom. Okay? We're going to take our pencil, and between these little grooves, we're going to go ahead and make some pencil marks. Just like this, all the way down, so we can find where we can lay our bracket to get the best fit. So when I pull it out, we have that. So in here you will find your bracket and find the one that fits. Like this one isn't the one that fits, but this one does. All I'm going to do is put this on my die cutter, and I'm going to line this up on that pencil mark like so, and I'm going to run that through the die cutter. And that's how we're going to get the best fit. So let's do that. Okay, we can go ahead and put this in our reserves if you want to erase your pencil mark. Now, if you notice when you put this down, you may be a little short from where our paper is short. Don't worry about that. I am going to be consistent. I'm going to ink around the edges of this, and I'm going to ink around this with the exception of when I get up to the top here, I don't have to ink across here. I'm just going to go around right up until it hits that point inking. So I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and glue mine down, and you can too, but this is what mine is going to look like. In our paper pack, it's the very last sheet. It's some tags and everything. We're going to grab this. Let's go ahead and trim off the top, and on the back it's green. I like to use my paper cutter even when trying to get out little things in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut this right in half to release these. I'm going to put this in reserves. Okay, you can put this on your paper cutter. I'm going to grab 2 sentiments out of here. I'm going to grab Live in the Moment, and I'm also If Friends Were Flowers. So this might be easier if we just use our scissors at this point and cut these out. And I'm going to put this in my thing. I'm going to divide these two, and I'm going to cut around the edges there to get all the light green off, as well as this. And I'll show you what mine looks like. So this is kind of what mine looks like right now. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of my scrap cardstock, add a little glue. Now when I place this down, I'm going to leave a little bit of a craft border all the way around this. And I'm going to do the same for this one. Put a little glue. So now I'm going to cut it out. And, all I'm trying to do is get the craft paper to frame around. So I'll show you mine, what it looks like when I'm done cutting around it. And then what I did was I inked around the edges of these. Okay, so right now I want to add some flowers on this, but I am going to be adding a bulky flower. Now this color was achieved by coloring the whole thing, blotting it with yellow, and then what I did was I used the sangria around the edges, and then I have another dauber that actually is where I can smear it together, kind of blend the colors together, and this is what you get. So before I add that, I'm going to flip these over and I'm going to apply my score tape. And on these, for the majority of all these pages, all we're going to do is line our score tape around the edges like a picture frame, and I will show you. So I've got the score tape going around the edges. And now with this isn't a real heavy page. I'm just going to put one strip down the middle, and then I'll run 2 shorter ones on either side, like so. Okay, I'm going to flip this back on over. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So let's do that. Alright, now 95% of the time, before I even do the score tape, I just go ahead and decorate, then I flip it over and I put the score tape on, but that is another option for you. If you like doing it first this way before you put flowers on or anything bulky, you're definitely going to want to wait until you got all your pockets mounted, your fold outs, everything, and then do your score tape. Alright, so I have this one. It's going to be for this. I have a green leaf here. I'm going to add some glue. And I'm just going to place that right like that. I'm going to grab a larger flower here, put that here. Now you definitely want to make sure that any larger or bulky things do not creep over to the side, because then it's going to hang up when you're trying to do that. Okay, and I have 2 smaller ones. If you notice, if you just have a white piece of cardstock and you stamp it with romantic, maybe a little yellow in your prills, it actually almost identically matches these in there. So I'm going to add a little glue here. And I'm using my hot glue gun because it grabs right away. Okay, live in the moment. I want it right there. I'm just going to put a little glue slide it here, partially under that leaf, right like that. Okay, so over here, what I did was I grabbed one of the butterflies out of the butterfly pack that are the DIY. You can ink them and do it all that. I did the same thing that matches the flowers before, but I do have glossy accents on here, and I do have some leaves here that I've prepared, and I'm gonna go ahead and just bring that right on up to the corner there. That's why I said don't worry about it, about that. I'm going to go ahead and place my butterfly. Now this is a good time if you have scratch paper just to slide that right back behind so that you do not glue down your trim to the back of your page. And that helps to grab any glue that tries to seep through. Okay, I have a couple more here to lay down. I'm going to grab the larger one here. And I've got another one of these. I'm just going to stick that right there. And I'm going to bend this slightly and kind of pull up the sides so there's something to glue down with. I'm going to put a little glue here and a little glue here. And here are your pages. Okay, let's grab our book. And like I said, this is for page 1. And how I do this, even though there's only 1, 2, 3, 5 sheets in here, I read this like a book, so it's easier for us to understand what page we're on. Page 1, page 2. It's kind of like reading a novel, a book. Page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6. Okay, so page 1 is going to be this. And the reason why I usually wait now when I'm doing these tutorials before we do mount this one is that the cover is bigger than our inner sheets. So it's easier to place this one and then match it up, placing this one to keep it side to side even. So in our book, let's go ahead and remove the backing of our score tape. And the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to have a nice border around on these. So this is just going to center right in the middle there. And depending if you're just starting out and stuff and perhaps you want to make your own album, your own design, placing these is all according to, mostly you want to just center them, okay? But however, if you make a really bulky page and a really thick where the spine and the crease is here, where you're going to flip, a lot of times I'll just move it over more to give me more room over here, so when I do turn the page, it doesn't get hung up on that crease where we flip. But for this is really a simple page. I've got the score tape off, and I'm just going to center it down. Now before I place this, I'm going to show you a little trick that will help you when placing it. I'm going to grab this out of my reserves, and I'm just going to slide that right back behind this page. Now I can see better where the edges of this are, because just looking at this, sometimes it's hard, especially when working with black cardstock. And it's hard for me with Crafty, so I do this. So I'm just going to, we should have about a 1/4 inch of a border all the way around. So I'm a 1/4 inch from the top, 1/4 inch in the side, as you want to get it as close as possible. And if you're off, that's fine. We're just going to make sure that when we place our first page now, I'm going to remove the score tape. We're going to place it so that the tops line up together, and the bottoms will line up. And we'll just center that on that cover. So let's do that. I'm going to remove my score tape and I will place it, and you can see. And again, I'm trying to keep my fingers out of this. And to keep my head out of the video, I'm going to try as best I can to line this up. It's not as easy said than done. So I'm hoping that this is pretty even there at the top with this. I may be off. If I lean over any more, then I'm going to be blocking the view. So let me, yep, that's even enough for me. I'm happy with that. So, and you don't always have to be so perfect. So there we are. Let's go ahead and set this aside, and we're going to move on to page 3.